Test, 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 test. Yeah. Yeah. Some would say the 80s were good, but I was bored. I was definitely bored in the 80s. If I didn't have movies and comic books, I would have been, somewhere else. Seeing all the big fucking malls That used to be fun. Spend most of your days at the mall. Chat. That's right. What? You're putting a fucking... You're putting an ad? I'm just gonna ban you now. It's fucking CHEWSDAY, isn't it? That's right, mate. It's fucking CHEWSDAY. Some would say it's the best day. None are better than a CHEWSDAY. Taco Tuesday.
American, huh? Guilty? No. Americans usually are.
Says the white.
Okay, chat, I made it. I made it, chat. Okay, I'll sign in. Oh, fuck off. Almost docked myself. What is happening? You fucking bitch. How dare you? There we go. All right. You gotta have a plug-in snapshot, otherwise you don't have shit in life. Oh, look, there I am. Watch myself. How dare you? There we go. All right. You gotta have a plug-in snapshot, otherwise you don't have shit. Oh my god, I sound like shit in life. Oh, look, there I am. Looks like Codswallop. How dare you? It looks like Codswallop. I mean, it is 1080p. Oh God, I sound like shit. Oh, the volume's way down. Looks like Codswallop. Hello? It looks like Codswallop. Hi. I mean, it is 1080p. Holy shit! YouTube sucks. Oh, the volume's way down. Looks like Codswallop. Hello? It looks like Codswallop. Hi. Hi. I mean, it is 1080p. Holy shit! YouTube sucks. Yeah, Codswallop. Looks like Codswallop. Hello? It's fucking like CHEWSDAY, mate. Hi. Hi. I mean, it is 1080p. Holy shit! YouTube sucks. Yeah, Codswallop. Looks like Codswallop. Hello? It's fucking like CHEWSDAY, mate. Hi. Oh shit, hi. Dude. Yeah, fuck YouTube. I can't get it to be less laggy. You know what? Frosty Tools, you're getting banned. Yeah. Trying to time them out. Why are you trying? Time that motherfucker out. Okay. Here we go, boys.
My first impressions of Amy.
What did you say to those who say that you're a war criminal?
Man, she doesn't care what anybody thinks.
Don't push me. I'm a journalist here.
Independent media is the oxygen of a democracy.
What do you mean by independent?
Not being sponsored by corporations.
Amy's chaotically brilliant at the spy game.
We began on 9 radio stations.
If she believes something, she's going to fight for it and get it out to the world. Straight up journalism.
The best.
It came from my Jewish education that you ask questions.
Sharif, can you talk about what's happened on the Gaza Strip?
From Ground Zero from East Timor. As we deplane in Haiti, from Georgia's death row prison.
We had to smuggle in our recording equipment. This was extremely dangerous. We're accusing a powerful American corporation of murder.
Without any warning, the military opened fire on the protesters. They put the guns to our heads.
Why is she
It's
on
critical
MS Now?
that we expose what is done in our name.
That was a look at the new documentary, Steal This Story, Please. The film follows the incredible efforts of independent investigative journalist Amy Goodman as she crisscrosses the globe for Democracy Now!, covering the real stories that she says are often overlooked by major news outlets. Joining us now, co-director of the documentary, Carl Deal, and co-founder and host of Democracy Now!, independent journalist Amy Goodman. We should note this film has been in theaters for 4 days, and it's one of the strongest theatrical releases in the U.S. in 10 years. A great opening for the film. A lot of people really care about this subject. We'll talk about the movie in just a second. But let's just start here about the Democracy Now! Itself. Celebrating 30 years now. Where did it come from? Why do you feel like it's so important? How has it grown the way it has from 9 stations to now over 1,500?
1,500 public television, radio stations around the world, and continues to grow. I mean, I think it comes down to the independence of Democracy Now! When we cover war, we're not brought to you by the weapons manufacturers. When we cover the climate catastrophe, you know, the fate of the planet, we're not brought to listeners and viewers by oil, gas, and coal companies. When we cover inequality, not by the banks or the financial institutions, but by the listeners, the viewers, and readers. And I think that's what's kept it going. And now when we look at the gutting of newsrooms all over the country, the closing of newspapers, when we look at the Washington Post, 1/3 of its news staff, hundreds of reporters just laid off. It is absolutely critical that we have a media outlet that is not brought to us by the corporations that profit from the problems of our day, but people committed to finding solutions to authentic voices, and that's who we talk to every day.
So, Carl, was that ethos, is that what drew you to the film?
Absolutely. When Amy says, she means every word that she said, and that's the credo by which they live and which they operate at Democracy Now!. She and her crew, they're really focused on getting the voices on the air of folks who are, you know, often living at the target end of the guns and who don't show up in a lot of the other media. And it's really important. We call the film Steal This Story, Please, because Amy talks a lot about this idea of trickle-up journalism, which is, you know, if she has an exclusive, then she's failed, right? She wants the stories that she uncovers to be picked up by other folks. And so you see a lot of that in the film.
So you've obviously traveled the world in some really dangerous situations and hot spots.
Can't believe she's on MS Now.
We're in a number of them.
That's crazy.
Right now. Talk to us about how you feel, your organization, but also the media.
Like, it took 38 years to get her on here. Like, come on, guys.
Media at large is doing covering what's happening in the globe at this moment.
Our job is to go to where the silence is as journalists. What often is not heard and what I feel represents most people. I mean, when you look at the U.S. and Israeli attack on Iran, we have to hear Iranian voices, because when you hear those voices, it's much less likely that you'll want to destroy them. Just hearing an Iranian child, maybe a girl who wasn't blown up in Manab on the first day of the attack, right, in southern Iran. Unfortunately, it looks like it was the U.S. that struck this girls' school, and about 170 people died, overwhelmingly girls. But to hear from people on the ground, changes everything. You don't have to agree with them. You could fiercely disagree, but it makes it much less likely that you want to destroy them. And I think the media can be the greatest force for peace
people you don't see are the ones you're okay with killing.
Often wielded as a weapon of war. I mean, whether we're talking about hearing Iranian voices, Iranian professors, Iranian artists, whether we're talking about hearing Palestinian voices, a Palestinian poet, whether we're talking about Israeli peace activists, the voices of those who I often think in this country and around the world represent the majority. Now, I would just say, I think those who care about war and peace, who care about climate change, who care about equality and LGBTQ issues are not a fringe minority, not even a silent majority, but all too often silenced by the corporate media.
And Carl, what do you hope audiences leave the theater with when they see this film?
Well, we've seen audiences leave the theater uplifted and inspired. This is a pretty difficult time, right? I mean, you guys report on it as vigorously as anybody. You know, I mean, it's no surprise that Morning Joe is the top-rated morning show in the country, the most watched. It's because you don't shy away from taking on Trump and calling it what it is. And the conventional wisdom around nonfiction documentary films is that audiences just want to see films about celebrities or true crime.
Not true.
But what we're seeing with the audience response to this film is that people really care about what's happening in their lives and the world and want to make sense of it. And our really strong opening this weekend is bearing that out.
Certainly. Everyone at this table, everyone in this building understands the importance of journalism, perhaps now more than ever. Timely and important film, Steal the Story, Please, is now playing at the IFC Center in New York, and it will expand to major cities across the country this Friday. Carl Deal and Amy Goodman, our thanks to you both. Congratulations.
Oh, shit.
It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Eric Swalwell officially resigning from Congress as he gets hit with a shocking new rape allegation, adding to a growing list of sexual assault claims. Some accusers are speaking out on camera for the first time, including a woman who says Eric Swalwell drugged and raped her when she was working as a model in L.A. in
Okay. Why do you believe her? And not the one that was saying that the president raped her, ma'am?
2018.
I believe he drugged my drink. I only had one glass of wine. When I arrived at his hotel room, I was already incapacitated and I couldn't move my arms or my body. He raped me and he choked me. And while he was choking me, I lost consciousness. And I thought I died.
And then he sent me a photo of his penis. Finally, it reached a point where
holy shit,
he invited me to a hotel to meet him. It was very clear what the connotation was.
Eric Swalwell's attorney is denying the allegations against him, calling them, quote, false, fabricated, and deeply offensive, and a calculated and transparent political hit job. Meanwhile, Arizona Senator Ruben Gallego, who once chaired Swalwell's presidential campaign and described Eric as, quote, my best friend, well, he faced off with reporters for more than 40 minutes today, vehemently denying any knowledge of inappropriate behavior, except rumors of flirting.
This man led a double life. He lied to us. He lied to his
bullshit.
Family, lied to his constituents. Anybody that asks, or anybody...
Bullshit, dude. Bullshit. Bullshit.
Any legal, proceedings that need it will get whatever they want, without a doubt. Since I told him to drop out, I have not spoken to him.
When you first heard these rumors, should you have acted when you first heard these rumors several years ago?
The rumors I heard were that he was just a flirty social guy. That's it. He became very good at being a predator. And he clearly preyed on these women in different positions, and he became extremely proficient
rid of this
at
guy,
lying
too.
to us, lying to his family,
Get rid of
lying
this
to his
guy.
community.
Well, Jesse, that all escalated very quickly.
Yeah, well, the Democrat machine's pretty slimy. If you think about it, Nancy Pelosi was Eric Swalwell's mentor. She put him on the House Intel Committee, kept him there even after.
So what? Yeah, Democrats are slimy, sure. Mister, I let the tires out of my wife's car so I could meet her. He caused an incident so he could interject. He slashed his future wife's tires, and that's how they met.
After Fang Fang, Jeffries put him on J6 committee. So he was sponsored.
It's a joke.
He was a rising star, and they used him as a weapon to hurt Trump. And they looked the other way at all of these shenanigans.
Oh, that's so
until
romantic.
He threatened their power in California.
He sliced your tires, and then you guys met? Oh, that's so cute.
California, and then kaboom, coup, nuked on the eve of the primary. First shot fired Friday in the hometown paper, San Francisco Chronicle. That hurts. It was local. And then over the weekend, you just see a domino of endorsements collapse. CNN gets the woman in spot shadow. The network, CBS, now have 3 women face out there. And then Monday, he takes himself out. They didn't even need this woman on Tuesday. You accused him of choking her, raping her, and drugging her.
Accused, yes.
This was highly orchestrated, professionally organized. This was a political assassination. And I think it was only possible because the Democrat machine knew about all of this for years. And everybody in Washington's admitting they knew about it. Everybody's admitting.
Okay, we've known about your rapist boss's fucking bullshit too, but no one's doing anything about that. Hello?
This was all out there.
For them, but not for us.
Dig? No.
That's right.
Did the Democrats protect the women? No, not at all.
Oh, you're just really good at protecting
I think
women,
it all
sir.
happened the way Biden went down. They covered up his brain. Then he blew himself up at the debate, became a liability, threatened all their seats, and the coup happened. Same thing here. So the Democratic machine is ruthless. They survive on blackmail, cover-ups, and coups. Now, Trump took on the Republican machine in 2016 and won. But so far, the Democrat machine remains unbeaten. And I'm not saying Swalwell's a victim. He did this he put the gun to his head, but the Democrat Party pulled the trigger.
How do you see that, Harold?
Well, first, it's good to be with you.
Good to be with you.
The allegations against him are so serious and vicious. He's denied the allegations. He'll have an opportunity to defend himself. But you said it yesterday. These things just keep coming. I differ with you a bit on the Democrat thing. I mean, I think this is the wrong question to be asking.
My mom was a race car driver.
Did the Republicans, how long do they know about Gonzalez? Or how long do they know about Corey Mills and the things that he's been accused of, women saying that he assaulted them? I don't think anybody in Congress was enabling this. And if they were, they'll have to answer these questions if it comes up in some proceeding where they find information to that effect. This is not a good day for the Congress. It's an institution that has failed to do its job over the last year, so it's been more associated with government shutdowns and defaults on our debt than it has been with getting things done and arriving at budgets and spending bills on time. And now you have this. Interestingly, the Gonzalez matter, and again, I just don't think this is the right question to be asking. But the Gonzalez matter, since we've asked it, he admitted to what happened with the young lady in his office. She apparently committed suicide.
What?
And no one had asked him to step. No one had moved to expel him. They kept him in. It's largely because of the politics. It was not until you had the situation with Swalwell, where now everybody wants Gonzalez out because you have an even number of people leaving. You got one Democrat, one Republican, so you don't upend or disrupt the majority in the Congress. We should ask every member of Congress on the Republican and Democrat side, was that ever in your calculus? Because that, to me, is as vicious and as serious as the allegations are, if these people knew these things, as vicious and as serious as the allegations are against Swalwell.
He denies it, Kennedy, but you saw her, the women who have spoken out publicly, it's hard for them to do so. What do you think happens next?
Yeah,
Because
and
he resigns from
No,
Congress.
it is. I'm just
what
making
she's
fun of Fox News
describing
because they have this
is
double
criminal.
standard.
Yes, absolutely right. And Jimmy and I were talking about this on my podcast yesterday. What do you do with your life after this if you're Eric Swalwell? Because I assume when I saw him in the first class lounge and then in first class life.
Yeah, and then what do you do with President Trump or any of his cadre who have raped women? You fucking kidding me right now?
Flat beds flying with 4 other people from Newark to Los Angeles. I assumed that the guy was rich. Little did I know that he was allegedly paying his illegal nanny with campaign funds in cash under the table. There's a lot of dubious stuff that has been swirling around him. And DC is the most gossipy place on the planet. Much more so than Hollywood, much more so than anything that I've seen in TV or film or music. People thrive on gossip as currency, and they all knew about this. And Swalwell's big defense was always, well, if any of this were true, the MAGA people would have found out about it. Donald Trump would have found out about it, and they would have come after me. And, these are just politically motivated rumors. And he accused the other people in the race of ginning these things up and making up lies and, potentially paying off women to come out and talk about him. But this had been, circling pretty publicly since December. That's a long time between then and now to keep him, this little golden party boy, as the front runner in your gubernatorial race in the biggest, most powerful state in the country. They absolutely knew both these things are possible at the same time. The Democratic establishment can be completely corrupt, and Eric Swalwell can be an alleged rapist.
It does appear that the Chinese spies understand their marks, right? At what point did the Democrats not think the Fang thing was a tell?
But that's where Nancy Pelosi's defense is so laughable on its face. Because if you're ensnared in a honeypot probe, okay, you get the same thing we got during COVID. It's called contact tracing. They don't go, this guy shagged a spy. Anyway, don't do it again. They go, who else was he texting? Who else was he emailing? Who else was he hanging out with? If I could just jog your memory 1 month, he was threatening to file legal action to deny the DOJ from releasing the files from that FBI investigation. Why? Because the contact tracing might have brought a lot of this stuff up to the surface. So there's 2 things that jump out at me. One is the shameless lying, because Gallego says, oh, I had no idea. It was my best friend. I had no idea. That's like Dr. Dre being like, Snoop Dogg smokes weed? Since when? Where have you been on this? So that is laughable. And just as the head of a small household, on a small scale, I'm blown away by what his data plan happened to be. You talk about him not having money. The amount of disgusting texts this guy was sending, I aspire to be in that tax bracket someday, but I hope to behave better when I get there.
On Snapchat, too.
On Snapchat.
And his wife is like, wait, you're 44 years old. There's no way you're on Snapchat. That's for teenagers. And he's like,
level of arrogance. She's making a brilliant point, because this is a guy who behaved like he thought he was bulletproof. He was a useful idiot until he no longer was.
Because they all are.
In the golden days of useful idiocy, you could open with your closer. You could send something as insanely forward as a picture of the governor, whatever you want to reduce this to.
The only reason these fuckers get taken down is if they shiced another one of the fucking guys in the same club. Then you get taken down.
It's very Brett Favre of him, is what I'm trying to say. And guys only do that because they probably have a habit of doing it successfully.
Flip it out of context, I don't care.
But those were the golden days.
Very nice.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
Some would say, folks. Some would say. It says excellent. We have an excellent.
Well, as the President of the United States showed, 2 can play at that game. And if the Iranians are going to try to engage in economic terrorism, we're going to abide by a simple principle that no Iranian ships are getting out either.
J.D. Vance might be the most sort of like beleaguered guy in the administration right now, because one gets the sense that he is seeing his prospects to become the 46th president to be exclusively a function.
I mean, he should have got a deal with Iran. And he should have got the deal that Trump wanted. That was his job. He didn't do it.
of Donald Trump's health. Now, I would imagine that's not a bad bet if you're J.D. Vance, but this guy has always, I think always probably growing up, been a very unlikable guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's awkward around people. And it really does seem like somehow he got the short end of the stick. He was sent to negotiate with the Iranians. Who knows what he was willing to give them or not give them, but it was Donald Trump basically trying to figure out like how he's going to get a taste of whatever money is going to flow in any direction. But here is J.D. Vance.
Accidentally admitting something that probably you shouldn't say out loud, I would imagine.
A little guy called Freud.
On Fox News last night.
Yeah, here he is trying to, I don't know, backfill.
When it comes to weapons of war, what they have done is engage in this act of economic terrorism against the entire world. They basically threatened any ship that's moving through the Straits of Hormuz. Well, as the President of the United States showed, two can play at that game. And if the Iranians are going to try to engage in economic terrorism, we're going to abide by a simple principle that no Iranian ships are getting out either. We know that's a big deal to them. We know that applies additional economic leverage. And again, Brett, the president wants the Iranian people to thrive and succeed. He has had his negotiation team put on the table a serious proposal. The ball is in Iran's court. Did we make progress? Yes, but we're going to find out from the Iranians whether we can make that ultimate bit of progress that gets us to a big deal.
In other words, if you're going to wreak havoc on the world's economy, we're going to wreak havoc on the world's economy. Two can play at that game.
And I like how he admits that if they engage in economic terrorism, we'll also engage in economic terrorism. You know what is typically associated with terrorism is acts of violence on civilians. And you guys actually started off with the actual terrorism by bombing a girls' school, killing over 160 girls, double tapping it, attacking their energy infrastructure.
Which is also terrorism.
Exactly, attacking their bridges because potentially some materials to make a weapon go over bridges on occasion, and acting like that's not a war crime. You guys started with actual terrorism, and they're responding with economic leverage.
Yeah, you've been doing the economic terrorism.
And geographic. I'm pretty sure they have maps in the White House. They might have been able to foresee some of these things if they saw, like, geographically what the Strait of Hormuz actually looks like with Iran.
Yeah, no shit.
And to its north, the fact that there's the Caspian Sea, that there's no NATO presence over, nor no U.S. presence over, where Russia can send them weapons in a pretty much unfettered fashion, making this much more difficult than Trump thought. Like, there's one thing to blockade Cuba, an island, and try to starve that population. It's another thing to do it to a country with Iran that has a variety of different trade routes and is a country of 90 million people and is highly mountainous and complicated.
And probably, I think it's safe to say, and this is a good question for Mohammed Al-Shabani, who's going to be coming on later in the program. They've been planning for the potential of this. You know, none of this is going in a surprising fashion, except for apparently to the Trump administration. But Iran has likely been preparing for this potential. I mean, this is the potential that they have probably been preparing for decades, probably since the Iran-Iraq war. This is the one thing that they knew potentially could happen. It was the one place where they knew they had leverage, and it was the one response to this would be, we're not going to allow for your boats to get out and sell oil either. Now, CNN reported about 2 hours ago that a Chinese a Chinese tanker has passed through the blockade. Unclear where that Chinese tanker had filled up with oil, but theoretically they would have passed through the Iranian blockade and probably maybe paid them. But it remains to be seen.
CNN reported that from Dubai, but yeah.
Okay, so it filled up from Dubai, and it's possible Iran did not blockade that boat, but it doesn't seem the logic of what the Trump administration is doing is a little bit hard to follow. But again, we will see.
We're going to do the thing you've been doing, and I hope you're unprepared for it.
Now, as the Trump administration sort of fumbles around and tries to figure out how they can justify any of this to their own base and to the own Trump voters who are like, you said you weren't going to do exactly this. This is exactly what you said you weren't going to do. The Republican Party, meanwhile, and let's also be clear, the Republican Party would be sweating this a lot more if the opposition party, if the leadership of the opposition party was not going on television and saying, Trump's chickening out. He isn't really fighting a good war against Iran. No, I'm
such small portions.
I mean, exactly. I mean, this is the point, is that we have a leadership, the leadership of the opposition party is not opposed to a war against Iran. To the extent that he is making moves that are contrary to what Trump wants, it is because his entire party is largely against this war as well. And so Chuck Schumer is out there essentially, he's playing the game, except for it's quite obvious that he's bet against his own team. But here are Republicans still scrambling, even without having the leadership of the opposition party essentially put this burning tire around the necks of Republican lawmakers. They still can't figure out what they're supposed to say about this.
How long do you think Americans will be willing to pay the higher energy costs while we are confronting Iran? I mean, obviously we know why we're paying it, but how long do you think we're going to be willing to keep paying it?
You know, that's an interesting question. I think back to my grandparents and their generation that served in World War II. Could you imagine, trying to tell the president, look, you only got so many days to defeat Hitler or defeat Japan. We have to do it till we get the outcome that we want. I hope it's weeks and not months. But at the end of the day, Americans are going to be safe.
There's a certain, that's a senator, Republican senator, like. Invoking Hitler and World War II like this is like borderline Holocaust denial. Like, I mean, it really is just really shameless.
Not just Holocaust denial. I mean, it's a World War denial.
It's denying every single dynamic that gave rise to Nazis and fascism in Europe and inverting it as if we're not the bad guys going to war on behalf of the state, committing genocide, borrowing tactics from the Nazis proudly. We are Japan in this instance if you want to go and turn around like that.
If Chuck Schumer was not in favor of the Iran war in some fashion or another, he would come out and say, we've just had a sitting Republican senator saying that this war we're engaged in with Iran is equivalent to a war where the world lost 80 million people. 80 million people. Is that what we're going to do? We're going to wage this for 3.5 years until 80 million people are dead? We killed Hitler, according to Trump. Yeah. How many Hitlers are in Iran? Like, we killed all of their leadership and nothing changed. Does that mean like there's a whole wave of Hitlers?
Still more Hitlers there.
They're a lot. They're all Hitlers apparently. But he wants to liberate those Hitlers from being Hitler by killing them. But some of them can be liberated through just seeing killing, and then they'll no longer be Hitler.
Do you remember when Iran bombed the United States to start this conflict?
Oh yeah.
Back in 1941, I think it was in December 7th of 1941. I mean, this is just like, these are knocking ducks. You could knock these things down like ducks if there was a leadership of the Democratic Party calling out, like, this is a senator. This isn't some backbench, congressman. This is a senator.
Yeah. And saying that people have to bear economic pain when Trump came into office saying he was going to fix the economy and no new wars, and now the message is like a year and a half later, the economy's going to have to suffer because of the war that I've started.
Yeah, be patriotic like me.
Really says a lot of what Trump thinks of his own voters. I mean,
do you remember in the early days of World War II when FDR went to a boxing match? He went to like a prize fight and partied with his Secretary of State during World War II. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. When does the rationing start? When are we going to start hoarding copper? And when are the pennies? I guess we're getting the pennies so we can save there.
I mean, that's what social screeds are. Instead of the fireside chats, we have the truths from the media.
Unbelievable leaks. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern, 2.5 hours. Even
on a CHEWSDAY, mate. What is happening? My stream is skipping. It's fucking CHEWSDAY, mate. It's fucking CHEWSDAY.
In or segments he's pro on a recent Kyle Corrin episode defending basically the exact concept as it relates to the decision come 2028. Got a couple different super chats on this live stream sort of criticizing recent positions he's taken or segments he's programmed. I thought it was interesting to hear him respond.
I vote on principle. I never vote for someone taking legal bribes like Newsom. You've lately turned against us because Trump's worse. So you could just vote blue no matter who. I've been open about the fact that my thinking has evolved on this big time, man. And the reason why my thinking has evolved is because I had a failure of imagination to truly grasp how objectively evil and terroristic and sadistic the Republican Party is. And
not me.
I grant you that there are many Democrats who do not live up anywhere near to what we need them to live up to. But having said that, there is such a big difference between even a shitty Democrat and a Republican. Because like I said, I genuinely don't think any Democrat would have had the balls to wage an illegal and offensive war against Iran. Right. Like, I do think Democrats are captured by the Israel lobby as well. And like, there's problems with the military industrial complex. All that is true. But I don't think they would have. Bill Clinton wasn't dog walked by Netanyahu. Obama wasn't dog walked by Netanyahu. Biden wasn't dog walked by Netanyahu. Donald Trump was dog walked by Netanyahu. And like I said, they wouldn't have bombed the boats in the Caribbean.
I think you could argue that Biden was a little dog walked by Netanyahu, but where I will agree with Kyle right here is the fact that he always maintained a firm line on Iran. Now, Joe Biden's foreign policy was not up to snuff when it came to Iran. I think he should have proactively negotiated a return to the Iran nuclear deal, which would have prevented some problems that we saw later in his presidency. However, he made it clear over and over and over again throughout the entire time that he was president that he was not going to follow Israel into a war with Iran. That's one piece of credit you can give the guy for sure.
Yeah, 100%. No, I agree with that. And I do agree with Kyle, too, that Trump has just like changed the calculation. Unfortunately, maybe you could have made an argument like 10 or 20 years ago, like, oh, Democrats and Republicans it's just a uniparty. They're all the same or something because like they both are bad in their own ways. That's just not the case anymore now. I do genuinely think it's the case that like even the worst Democrat would be a substantial, monumental improvement over fucking Donald Trump. I think that is inarguable at this point. So while I do certainly understand Hassan's approach to this, where he's like, I'm not going to admit that I'll vote for the Democrat until they give me X, Y, and Z concessions. I respect that approach genuinely, specifically given how influential and popular Hassan is and the fact that he knows powerful people are watching and monitoring his approach. I also respect Kyle's approach here of just being honest and being like, yeah, obviously, even if it's Gavin Newsom, I'm supporting that person over fucking Donald Trump / JD Vance.
And it's an easy decision. That's why I feel like we also came to that same conclusion.
And they wouldn't have shoved people in concentration camps. Like, I think to deny the colossal difference between the Democrat and the Republican Party is just false equivalence bullshit. And I think that way of thinking, which I used to do myself, I just think it's not, I just think it doesn't work in the modern iteration with the Republican Party basically being a terrorist entity. I basically view voting against the Republican Party for the only other viable party that can win. I view it as similar to like voting against Al-Qaeda. Like I view the Republicans as like ISIS. They're like terrorists. Like you have to get them out of there. So that's where my thinking comes from. So Newsom, I'm going to vote for the best candidate that's out there in the primary, the furthest left-wing candidate in the primary. But whoever wins the primary, I will ride hard for in the general election, no doubt about it. And even if it's Newsom, don't give a fuck, man. Riding hard for him.
Again, I do kind of appreciate Kyle's honesty there. And I feel in a similar way in the sense that, yeah, during the primary, you're going to hear us talking so much shit on the likes of fucking Gavin Newsom and pretty much any other corporate fucking Zionist Democrat, right? We're going to be talking endless amounts of shit and supporting whoever the most progressive candidate is. However, if we don't get our way, if that progressive candidate doesn't win the nomination and it's a fair and free primary, yeah, I'm probably going to support the fucking Democrat. You know what I'm saying? Against J.D. Vance or Tucker Carlson or some fucking outright fascist Nazi. Yeah, it might have to be done. I might have to fucking support John Ossoff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wouldn't even be upset supporting John Ossoff. If you compare the guy to Donald Trump, as Kyle pointed out, it's not even close. It really would feel like a distinction between the average American politician and somebody who is beyond the pale, like an Al-Qaeda terrorist. I mean, when you think about the destruction that's been brought onto our country by Donald Trump, if it were any other country, we would not be able to get our minds around how the people weren't revolting in the streets and overthrowing this person who's gotten them into illegal wars, who has stolen so much money from the American people. It's incomprehensible. Do you guys know, we used to hear all about despots in this country. Oh, yeah, these guys are stealing from their people and forcing them all into poverty. That's what our leadership is doing right now. That's what Donald Trump represents on an international scale, criminality, right? So it just becomes so obvious. I'd honestly find myself being thrilled if I thought that John Ossoff was going to beat Donald Trump. Like, I just would be.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And I think you're just being performative if you don't agree with that, right? Like if you're on the left and you can't agree that John Ossoff would be a monumental fucking night and day improvement over the current situation, you know what I'm saying? Or the continuation of the current situation, if we're going to be led by some asshole like J.D. Vance, then you're just fucking being performative. You know what I'm saying? That's just, I don't believe you. You know that's true.
Is what it is, you know?
Facts. You heard it.
Case Sutherland, thanks for the $20. Kyle, I have a lot of respect for you, even though I disagree with you on guns and if there's a God, but please stop giving grifters like Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes the time of day. That's Jimmy Dore type energy. Well, I disagree because the Jimmy Dore type energy is not only covering them, but also, you know, glazing them and acting like they have a point and acting like they're allies. And what I'm in every single segment I do on all of those people is to point out that this is bullshit. That this is bullshit. They don't mean it. And they're going to fucking stab everybody in the back the second that they get a chance, right? Like they're going to, you know, most of them are going to ride for fucking J.D. Vance as soon as he becomes the nominee. They're still going to ride for the Republican Party. And so, like, the reason why you talk about it and cover it as a leftist is divide and conquer. That's the idea. You want to take the fissures that exist on the right and how they're fighting each other and they're factionalized. You want to exacerbate that. So you want to pour gasoline on that fire so they keep fighting and keep destroying themselves. And the way you do that is to talk about it and hype them up, right? And say, oh, look what this one said. Oh, are you going to let them say that, bro? What are you doing? That's the whole point of talking about those people.
And I totally agree with Kyle. I think his defense here is, or his approach here is totally defensible. And I think it's what separates him from the sort of coverage that we criticize the Young Turks for, specifically as it relates to Tucker Carlson, right? Because they don't add that caveat that Kyle is stressing that's so important to add, which is that these people are fucking crazy, that they're fucking Nazis, and that I'm not doing the segment in order to sanitize their image and make it seem like they're our ally. No, I'm doing it to exacerbate the right-wing infighting.
And also, it's an informed decision after decades of being on YouTube, right? It's not like when the left tried to just say, oh, I'm going to ignore Alex Jones. Oh, I'm just going to ignore the right-wing pivot of Joe Rogan. Oh, I'm just going to ignore all of the crazy Nazi freak shit that Nick Fuentes does. It wasn't like that solved the problem, right? If you leave these people to fester alone, they will still expand. What has Kyle found and what has the Vanguard found is an effective way to counter that. It's to destroy it. It's to say, oh yeah, you like that
Yeah.
guy because he's a male figure right around your age group and you think he's charismatic. I am going to expose him to you as being totally full of shit. Go read Kyle's comment section. It's filled with dudes who are like, I love the Joe Rogan experience. And then I found you and I was so excited because I finally had someone who I thought was actually going to speak more towards my morals and ethics. I'm excited to get the news from you now. Fuck. A decade ago, I found Kyle Kulinski in no small part because of his appearance on Joe Rogan Experience. That was the first time I listened to Kyle in like a long, uninterrupted string because it was like, oh, here's the lefty dude that's on Joe Rogan. He's probably like Abby Martin. That's how I found out about Kyle, right? In a meaningful way. So many people have since then. And maybe you are like on the fence about Nick Fuentes, and then you listen to Kyle absolutely humiliate and shred every talking point he's got. And you're like, oh yeah, that is pretty silly. You know what I mean? So it serves an actual means to an end.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And if you're someone that does watch like Candace Owens or Nick Fuentes, then maybe one of those Kyle videos will get suggested to you because he kind of works his way into that algorithm, and YouTube might suggest it to you. And then, you're listening to that different perspective. So I think it's important and a totally defensible approach. I think this comment is pretty crazy, comparing Kyle's approach to Jimmy Dore. That's beyond the pale.
Is to say, like, look, let's do divide and conquer. Let's highlight them. Let's have them go at it more aggressively, and let's have some fun. If they say some shit that backs our argument, then we go out there, hey, bitch, where the fuck were you a year ago when I was saying that shit? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what you do. And so, if I don't, I have a show. What am I supposed to do? Not talk about the political shit that's happening? Like, that's my job, is to talk about that stuff. You know what I'm saying? But I try to make clear that it's not on some Jimmy Dore shit where it's like, oh, well, maybe Candace has a point, or maybe Candace is good now. It's like, no, that's fucking crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Shout out to you, bro. Thank you for the $20. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Case.
Either way, that's the response to the criticism. And speaking of Jimmy Dore, I doubt we'll get to it on this live stream, but it is completely fucking humiliating that Brianna Joy Gray invited his washed up ass on her irrelevant fucking podcast to entertain his nonsense and promote his insanity. With no pushback, with basically zero fucking pushback. It's genuinely the most embarrassing thing she's ever done, is platforming that loser. Again, years after he even had any claim to relevance with the left. Completely disgraceful and embarrassing. And again, I don't know if we'll have time to react to it on today's show, but I just want to say that it was fucking humiliating.
Yeah, there's a screenshot floating around. I don't have it handy. If you look for it, you'll find it. You can watch the whole video. Jimmy Dore and this guy who hosts a podcast, Mother of All Talk Shows, his name is George Galloway. They did a whole ass segment together where they talked about how the right-wing party was now the anti-war party, and Trump was the leader of the anti-war movement, not just in America, but in the West, Gavin. And he went on Brianna's show, and Brianna allowed him to come on her show and present himself as a guy who was right about everything too early. No, dude, we were right about everything when you guys were pretending that there was somehow an anti-war effort within the Donald Trump movement.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, it's completely disgraceful how Jimmy Dore not only promoted Donald Trump, but also RFK. Remember that? Even while RFK was out there, like, saying some of the most disgusting Zionist talking points, defending Israel's right to commit a genocide, Jimmy Dore was promoting that idiot, literally sheepdogging his audience into the Republican Party, as he famously loved to accuse Bernie of doing with his supporters and the Democratic Party. It's just completely embarrassing that Brianna wouldn't push back on that at all or ask him any tough questions. But we got one more timestamp here from Kyle and Corin to react to. Real quick, Zach, let's take a look.
Hell yeah.
We'll try to speed up.
The
So we gotta
homies.
wrap it up at 11:30. Oh, the Vanguard. Shout out to you guys, bro. Sup, bros. Love the live shows. Well, thank you, Vanguard. We appreciate your live shows as well. I know you guys just went to Peru. Right, Peru? And you went to the Amazon, I feel like? That was kind of crazy. How was that shit? That's so wild that you were down there. But welcome back to the fucking grind again, to this hell world that we live in, where we come to the end of the world.
Let's go. A
Keanu,
shout
thanks for
out.
the $5.
Did you pause it? That's so relatable too, because that's exactly what Gavin and I were doing. We were just like trying to pretend that the world around us wasn't happening. And here, I'll move that up so everybody can see our super chat. But yep, now we're back to the grind, guard, as Kyle mentioned, and having a great time with it though.
Yeah, 100%. Shout out to Kyle and Corin. Big fans of them both. And yeah, I do love the live shows. I always tune in to the Kyle Corin live shows. I enjoy the vibe. It's relaxed and fun and chill and all that good stuff. So shout out to both of them. And yeah, I thought, one of the reasons I like it too is because Kyle gets the chance to respond to some of the pushback, like what we just listened to and heard. And I think he's pretty reasonable, responses there.
Oh yeah, that's one of the things I've always liked about Kyle is he doesn't freak out if you disagree with him. He'll be like, no, this is why I do it my way, but hey, thanks, bro. And it's admirable because he's very secure in his position. He's not like, worried about getting feedback from people. I find a lot of big time YouTubers, they're afraid to respond to super chats really casually because they don't want to be confronted by people who aren't just celebrating them. And so, yeah, it's always a good thing. And also show a little more love to our boy Corin at Corn Chips on Twitter if you want to follow him that way. But his Corin's World videos are really fun. I love it when he goes and eats at restaurants and shit. I'm a sucker for that kind of content. And I think more reasonable lefties should put out content that's just escapism, right? Where it's like, yeah, there is no political undertones outside of fuck, it's expensive when I'm eating here. But it's nice to have a little bit of something to zone out to. And I think Corin's a fun guy.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I love his restaurant reviews. His review of the Wahlburgers, disgusting looking cheeseburger, made me laugh so fucking hard. It looked disgusting. It looked nasty as fuck. And I think it was like $15 too. So.
Okay, then. That's crazy, chat.
Someone's convicted as a pedophile. Would you ever take your family to their island?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Y'all taking this issue that real victims have gone through, and it's almost like politicizing it for a personal political agenda.
But certainly you don't think Thomas Massey and I have done that, right? We always had the survivor.
Well, to a certain degree, where was this energy when you first came in?
Who released the Epstein files? Was it Joe Biden or was it President Trump?
Well, he did it because Massey and I forced his hand with the...
So why didn't you force Joe Biden's hand? Donald Trump has done more to expose pedophiles than Joe Biden ever did.
On a 1 to 10, how much do you trust me?
You released the files, so I'm going to give you like a 6 or a 7.
That's not bad.
Yeah, no, that's
And
pretty
Massey?
good. Yeah, Massey up like an 8 or a 9.
How did Massey get a higher score than me?
Millions of Epstein files have been released. The American people are demanding accountability and justice for the victims. I'm John Regalado. From Jubilee Media, this is Surrounded. Everyday Americans from both sides of the political aisle are here to discuss the Epstein files, our two-tier justice system, and what proper accountability looks like. Today we're in Washington, D.C. with the co-author of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, Representative Ro Khanna. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
You ready to get into these discussions?
I'm excited.
Are you all ready?
Yes.
All right, let's get into it.
I'm Congressman Ro Khanna. I represent Silicon Valley. I'm the co-author with Thomas Massey of the Epstein Transparency Act that forced the release of 3 million files. I believe we need to stand for the working class, not the Epstein class. Today, I'm surrounded by 20 Americans to discuss the Epstein files.
He said Americans.
My first surrounded claim is that the treatment of the Epstein class shows that there are 2 tiers of justice in America.
If you would like to debate this claim, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, Christian.
Mr. Congressman.
I like the boots.
Yeah, thank you.
Where did you get those?
I got those out in Dallas.
Nice.
Yeah, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Mr. Congressman, when were you elected in Congress?
2016.
2016.
I started in 2017.
And when did the Epstein stuff first come out? Was that 2008, or when was that?
Well, he was convicted in 2008.
2008. So you started when President Trump was in office the first time.
Yeah.
And you served while Joe Biden was in office.
Yes.
He's from my home state in Delaware. Not a fan of him. I voted for President Trump. Proudly, the first time I ever voted this past year.
Really?
Yeah, first time I ever voted.
What made you vote for him?
He's America first, and that's what we need.
What about all the $200 billion he's spending on
Let's
the
just
war
get
in
back to
Iran?
Epstein files. Let's
Yeah.
get back to Epstein files. So you served while Joe Biden was in office. What did you do to release the Epstein files while he was in office?
In 2019.
No, while Joe Biden was in office.
Well, let me explain. In 2019, we called for the release of those files. Elijah Cumming and I, in the Oversight Committee, we called for an investigation. Now, when Joe Biden came into power, I do believe we should have released the files. That I'm not defending the previous administrations because I've gotten to know these survivors. And I believe that the files should have been released years ago. When we started this, we actually thought Trump would support us. Think about it, the coalition I built with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and Nancy Mace and Thomas Massey. And Marjorie said, Donald Trump, you could be a hero. You could be the president who releases these files and meets with the survivors. I was surprised and disappointed that President Trump fought it. I was surprised and
Sorry, let me just stop you there.
Yeah,
Who released the Epstein files? Was it Joe Biden or was it President Trump?
Well, he did it because Massey and I forced his hand with the.
So why didn't you force Joe Biden's hand?
Well, we should have. I'm not.
Why didn't you?
Well, because at that point there was a process, but we should have. I got to know the survivors in 2025. I got to know them personally. Had I gotten to know them earlier, I would have, and I wish someone had.
Did Merrick Garland protect the Epstein class?
He didn't protect. Here's what the problem was. It needed a law of Congress. The Justice Department couldn't release things because of their policy until Congress passed a law. Congress had to say you can override the privacy considerations and you can release it. So, yeah, should we have tried to pass this law in the Biden administration or first Trump administration? Yes. But let me ask you this. Now that we've passed the law, why don't you think they should just release the rest of the 3 million files? And Trump, fine.
What's your argument, bro?
Take credit for it and try to get justice for the survivors. Why aren't they doing that? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, how many files have been released so far?
3 million. They haven't released half of them by their own admission. And some of those files that they haven't released, those are the ones where the survivors are naming the rich and powerful men who raped them or abused them. So my question to you is, do you think that the rich and powerful people who have been legitimate accusations of rape or being pedophiles or giving money to Epstein in illegal ways, do you think they should be
Donald Trump has
investigated?
done more to expose pedophiles than Joe Biden ever did.
No, but put aside that the point. Yes, he's complied half complied with the law. Do you think they should investigate and prosecute them? And do you think they should release the other half of the files?
They should investigate everyone, including
but they're
Democrat
not.
donors.
But they should
prosecute all of them.
But why aren't they doing? They're not even investigating the Democratic donors. They're people
Should investigate all of them.
Well, so you agree they should do that? I've been calling. Some of these people
what
are
are they
people who
disagreeing?
donated.
What's
Steve
the
Tisch
point?
donated to Democrats.
Were any of your donors on the list?
Yes. Yeah. I'm for investigating.
Have you spoken with them about the Epstein files?
I have not.
You have not.
I have not.
What's holding you back from that?
Well, I've
Are they giving you money still?
I don't think so. No one who's on. No, but I've said that if there are donors of mine who are on the list, that doesn't matter. They should still come before the Oversight Committee. There should still be investigations. This has always been bipartisan. Are
you going to bring Merrick Garland in to testify before the Oversight Committee?
Yeah, I'd support that. I mean, I would, yeah, to understand why the files were not released. But now, would you support the idea that Pam Bondi should actually open up investigations?
She's already been subpoenaed. She's going to appear before the committee.
No, but that she should start opening up investigations against some of these men. I mean, there's
filmed in
survivor
March.
told me she was raped at 17. The person's in the files. No investigations being open. There's no investigation open about Leon Black, about Les Wexner. Why not?
I think like
All
the
right, we
previous
got to pause there. You've been voted out by the majority.
Good to see you.
If you would like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
How you doing, Congressman?
Hi, Aaron. Good to see you.
Nice to meet you. I appreciate your bipartisan work. I appreciate everything you've done to expose what you've exposed so far. I guess, could you define the 2 tiers that you're speaking about so that we all have a better definition of where you're coming from?
So if you get a parking ticket, you get a lot of parking tickets, your car will get booted. Or if you do something wrong, the cops will be at your house and you'll get arrested. In this case, people who had wealth and power, extreme wealth, basically thought that they could get away with doing things that you or I or most people in America can't. In the worst case, they were raping underage girls. On a less egregious matter, they were showing up to parties where 13, 14, 15-year-olds were being paraded naked, or they were hanging out with Epstein, a pedophile, knowing that he was raping underage girls, and no police were ever coming and asking them questions. That's what I mean about 2 tiers of justice, that the wealthy and powerful use their wealth and power and connections to avoid justice that you and I have to face.
So I would argue that means that there's 1 tier of justice, and it's just for the have-nots, right? So my question to you is, it seems that most of Congress, most of our elected officials are supported by a lot of these people who are in that other class of people.
You're right.
So how do we have faith in our legislature to work on behalf of us, the people, when we know that their pockets are being lined by the same people that are on these islands, that are in these files, that are in these back rooms at these secret parties, that are these secret events, these terrible, horrible, nasty, disgusting things that are happening, and the most prolific child trafficker of our lifetime, they're friends with him.
You've hit the heart of what's wrong with our democracy. Are we going to be for the working class, or are we going to be for the Epstein class? And this is why I believe those files weren't exposed for so many decades. because both parties had donors in them, because rich and powerful people knew politicians on both sides. And it was in everyone's interest to stay quiet. But I believe prosecuting and holding the elite accountable, taking risks like Massey and I have. The billionaires don't like us. A lot of the people in this Epstein class don't like us. They're funding primary challenges against us. But we need to stand up to them, and then we need to say no to PAC money, no to super PAC money, get the money out of politics.
Would you agree that there are politicians who are a part of that?
Fuck you. Bitch ass. All right, dude. Switching gears.
What are we talking about? Wake up. This is the face of terror with the bomb that's being stopped. President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and it should be the entire Western world, has an opportunity to stop this before it happens.
I'm hearing him talk about monsters in charge of governments, the face of terror, nuclear weapons. Who are we talking about here, Iran or Israel? Which country in the Middle East attacked 6 countries in the Middle East last year? 6. It wasn't Iran, it was Israel.
You're an absolute denial, and so is Candace Owens, and so is Tucker Carlson.
I'm not here to speak for Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens, who I've been very critical of. I'm not here to speak for Iran, who I've been very critical of. I'm here to talk about facts.
You're defending. You sound like Mehdi Khamenei.
Of course.
We just want
go for racist insults.
2014.
That's all you have left.
We murdered 300 terrorists last week, and I think those are your people.
Wow.
The people of Lebanon were supposed to be enjoying a badly needed break from the bombing. President Trump had announced a 2-week ceasefire. The US and the Pakistanis were clear initially that it included the Israeli war against Hezbollah. Instead, Israel launched a blitz. Hundreds were killed and thousands wounded by an IDF bombardment under the chilling codename Operation Eternal Darkness. The death toll in Lebanon is now more than 2,000, according to the health ministry. As I said on this show 3 weeks ago, for all debate about whether Israel forced Trump to start the war, it will soon be a question of whether Israel is the barrier to ending it. And while many Israelis believe the war is righteous and necessary, the damage to Israel's global standing could be devastating. Spain is openly calling Netanyahu a war criminal. This weekend, Turkey compared him to Hitler. And record numbers now look unfavorably on Israel and the United States, where plenty of people think, with an increasing body of evidence, that Netanyahu forced Trump into a disaster. Well, joining me to debate this is Mehdi Hassan, founder of Zateo News, and Doran Spielman, the reservist IDF spokesman, and all.
Got a live takedown on YouTube. Well, I fucking hate it. They just stopped my stream. They're like, yep.
Author of When the Stones Speak. All right, well, welcome to both of you. Doran Spielman, welcome back to Uncensored. The New York Times piece that came out several days ago painted a pretty extraordinary picture of the Prime Minister of Israel sitting in the Situation Room at the White House with the head of Mossad appearing on a large screen and painting a picture of what would happen if the United States joined Israel in taking out the Supreme Leader of Iran and his top people who are all going to be congregating. That inevitably what would happen is the IRGC, the sort of ruling regime underneath the Supreme Leader would collapse. The people of Iran would rise up, and that nobody would care or notice the Strait of Hormuz. That would be an irrelevance to all this. And all that's happened is that, and a lot of people in the room on the American side thought this was fantasy land. And all that's happened is the first part happened. The Ayatollah and his top people were taken out in a successful strike. But the IRGC remain in place, the people haven't risen up, and the Iranians have worked out the Strait of Hormuz can be used as an economic weapon to rival anything that people can do against them militarily and cause enormous global economic damage. Do you accept that the Americans were sold a pup here?
Pierce, thank you for having me. I think actually, Pierce, we're going to look back at this as a war that was as consequential as perhaps if the West had information in 1936 to act against Nazi Germany. We have to put this in perspective. Wars take time. Iran has had 40 years to embed. There's not been a single U.S. president, starting with Ronald Reagan, who I greatly respect, going all the way through Clinton and Obama, and Biden, who's been willing to pay the political capital to stop the Iranian terror regime, the largest regime in the world, from developing a nuclear weapon. And why? Because it requires a preemptive strike. You have to preemptively stop Iran. If you don't preemptively stop Iran from having a bomb, the alternative is you're only going to stop it when that bomb lands in your soil. We don't want to have a 9/11 where instead of 2 passenger planes, we're dealing with an atomic weapon. And I think President Trump has been incredibly consistent from the very beginning. And here, obviously, he shares a value with Israel, which is that Iran cannot be a nuclear regime. It's very, very simple. You cannot have an Iranian terror regime that instead of blocking the Straits of Hormuz with ballistic missiles, they can block the Straits of Hormuz with a nuclear weapon. You can't have a regime that when they shoot at Israel, which we've had more than 6,000 of their weapons, both from Hezbollah and Iran, we've had over 1,000 over the last 12 months, any one of them loaded with a nuclear weapon. And we have to take a step back here. We see the face of the regime. They're an evil monster. They're hitting their own allies. How could we even conceive that we would not take the opportunity to eliminate this before it grows? And the shock, Pierce,
it's not a
is
cancer.
that I have people like Mehdi, who's going to join us shortly, and people all over these kind of this liberal fantasy land that you can transplant what you hear in the Oxford corridors if you just act nice and you kind of reason with them. Well, maybe they want a bomb, but they're not really going to use it. It's only for civilian energy. What are we talking about? Wake up. This is the face of terror with a bomb and it's being stopped. And therefore, I think President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and it should be the entire Western world, is now has an opportunity to stop this before it happens. And I think, if anything, it's praiseworthy, Pierce.
Okay, Mehdi Hassan, it's praiseworthy.
Well, it's not praiseworthy. The entire war has been a disaster. I think everyone agrees on that. Even the Israeli opposition agrees it's been a disaster the way Netanyahu and Trump have handled it. I think any objective person can look at the state of this war, even if you are pro the US government, pro the Israeli government, and say it's been a success. But let's put that to one side. I want to take on board what Doran said across the board, because a lot of it was pure projection. I mean, I'm hearing him talk about monsters in charge of governments, the face of terror, nuclear weapons. Who are we talking about here, Iran or Israel? Because I would ask a few questions for your viewers to consider today as they listen to Doran. Which country in the Middle East has nuclear weapons? It's not Iran, it's Israel. Which country in the Middle East has not signed the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty? It's not Iran, it's Israel. Which country in the Middle East is defying a UN Security Council resolution calling for that country to open up its nuclear facilities to IAEA inspectors? It's not Iran, it's Israel. Which country in the Middle East attacked 6 countries in the Middle East last year? 6. It wasn't Iran, it was Israel. So Iran, for all its many sins and crimes, is not the rogue nuclear state in the Middle East right now. That country is Israel. As you said, Piers, in your introduction, global public opinion has made it very clear that they see Israel as the threat to regional and international peace right now. You pointed out, Piers, that it's Benjamin Netanyahu dragging American Republican presidents into wars of choice. Iraq in 2002-3, and now Iran in 2025-2026.
Yeah, I mean, Doran Spellman, the flaw in your argument is just a bunch of woolly liberals who didn't want this to happen. If you look at actually the reaction from American conservatives, you know, you got Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Alex Jones. You've got Trump supporters like Joe Rogan, Theo Von, and others, the big podcasters who helped get him elected. There's a massive cross-section of very influential people, many of whom are conservative Trump supporters historically, who have condemned this war and want nothing to do with it. So I don't think you can just bat it away as, oh, it's just a bunch of, you know, liberals throwing their toys out of the pram. It's not.
You know, I love the word projection because projection is used by people who don't live in the real world, because the alternative to a projection when it comes to a nuclear weapon, when does that projection end, Mehdi? Does it end when Iran is trying to develop enriched uranium, and already back before the JCPOA had already developed 6 times, and now they've developed almost 90% of enriched uranium, which is 20 times the amount you need for an atomic weapon? Is that for civil uses? Is that still a projection, or is it when they actually press that little button and it lands in the U.S.?
Well, let me ask you. Well, let me before. Hold on, Piers. Well, hang on. On that point, Piers. On that point, given you said that
projection that 22 civilians have been killed
but let me
from
ask
ballistic
you,
missiles, and we've got 600 warheads on Israel. We've had warheads
22.
land on
You've
the
killed
UAE.
2,000 people in Lebanon and 3,000 people in Iran.
And regarding, this is so funny. Regarding Iran, you put them on the court bench. You call in someone for a character reference, comparing Iran to Israel. Who's Iran? Well, they've developed a global terror regime that stretches from the Middle East through Latin America into Europe. They have the Houthis who've stopped shipping and have fired missiles and weapons both at Israel and U.S. assets. They created Hezbollah, the world's largest terror organization. That is also one of the largest drug organizations.
You created Hezbollah by illegally invading Lebanon.
Who committed October 7th. They just killed 30,000 of their people in the streets for protesting them. I mean, do we need such a projection? I mean, only an idiot would actually say we need a projection to understand what Iran's intent is. We don't even need to try. They keep shoving it in your face, Mehdi. You're in absolute denial. And so is Candace Owens, and so is Tucker Carlson. And President Trump, thank God, is
I'm not here to speak for. I'm not here to speak for. Hold on, Doran. Let me respond. You said a lot there. I'm not here to speak for Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens, who I've been very critical of. I'm not here to speak for Iran, who I've been very critical of. I'm here to talk about facts. You say projection. Let's just deal with your little speech in two ways. Number one, even if I were to accept your premise that Iran's nuclear program was a threat, even though the IEA and US intelligence say it wasn't, but let's accept your premise that it was a threat. This is not the way you stop a nuclear program. We had the JCPOA, which Israel opposed, Donald Trump opposed. Iran was enriching at 3.67%, had no pathway to a bomb under the JCPOA, as every major disarmament and nuclear expert said at the time. It was Israel, Netanyahu, Trump that opposed this, and now we have them at 60% enriched uranium because of the actions of Israel and Donald Trump. So if you claim to want to stop Iran from having a nuclear weapon, you've done a very bad job of doing that. In fact, if you're the Iranian leadership now, you probably want a bomb more now than ever before because you've been attacked by Israel 2 years running. That's one point. On the point about projection, the point I'm making is this, Doran, and you dodged it, so let me ask it again. The only country in the Middle East right now that can put its finger on a button and fire a nuke is Israel. The only country threatening to fire the nuke it has, Ben-Gvir smiled and nodded the other day when an Israeli journalist suggested nuking Iran, is Israel. Why is your country, Doran, you're a spokesman for the military, in violation of UN Resolution 487, which was unanimously passed, including by the Reagan administration in 1981, calling for Israel to open up its nuclear facilities to the IAEA? Why wouldn't you allow IAEA inspectors to look at your illicit secret nuclear weapons program?
First of all, I think you and I both know that there are no binding United Nations resolutions against Israel.
Yes, there is.
That's binding.
UN Resolution 487, which was unanimously
binding,
passed, including by the Reagan administration in 1981, calling for Israel to open up its nuclear facilities to the IAEA. Why wouldn't you allow IAEA inspectors to look at your illicit secret nuclear weapons program?
First of all, I think you and I both know that there are no binding United Nations resolutions against Israel. Not in
yes,
any
there is.
sphere.
UN Security Council Resolution 487.
No, there's not a
You're wrong, Doran.
You're
wrong, Doran.
UN resolution.
You're wrong.
And there is a number of.
You're lying. Everyone can Google it right now. UN Security Council Resolution
against Iran.
Google it, bitch.
People can Google it.
Mehdi, you just said it yourself.
You can talk over me.
Basically, just
UN Security Council Resolution.
You're saying that Israel.
487.
Mehdi, one second. We can't.
You can talk over me. I'll wait and make my point again.
Okay,
well, let me just make one point,
ahead,
and then I'll let you speak indefinitely. UN Resolution 487. You can Google it right now. People can watch it at home. In
drink your coffee,
1981,
bitch.
the Reagan administration
Fucking
voted
Israel
for it.
shill.
It calls on Israel to urgently open up its facilities to IAEA controls. That is a UN Security Council resolution which is binding under international law. Israel has been in violation of it for 45 years. Why are you in violation of it? And do you accept that Israel has nuclear weapons? If you won't accept that, why should we take anything you say seriously on anything else?
It is not a binding resolution. However, I want to get your point because I think you just answered it for me. You said that this has been Israel, according to you, has been in violation for 40 years. So therefore, you're assuming Israel's had a nuclear weapon for 40 years. Can you tell me one time, Mehdi?
It has.
One single time.
Are you denying
Israel
that?
has threatened another country with nuclear war. Can you tell me, Mehdi, one time when an Israeli prime minister under an entire command center would have the ability with massive controls, just one second.
I answered your question.
That is referred to another country. Hold on, Mehdi. Another country, as you and I both know, that Iran, who you have projections about, the supreme leader, right, Ali Khamenei, which I'm very curious why you defend him and his entire regime. Ali Khamenei refers to Israel as the little Satan. And we both know, how he refers to the United States.
They are
meaning the
Satan.
spiritual leader. You've called him a spiritual leader.
Doran, you're not. Let me jump in here. Doran, let me jump in. Let me jump in, please.
Calls America the great Satan.
Let me jump in,
and you want to
please.
give him a nuclear weapon?
Stop
Israel
talking.
and the U.S. are fighting together against
please
terror
stop
regimes.
talking.
You're
I am
comparing us?
here. I am here, and I am moderating this panel, much as you both like to just get off without me. Many raises the point I have raised with a number of pro-Israeli guests in the last few weeks. Why is it that Israel does not admit it has nuclear weapons? And are you prepared to do so now?
Israel, as we all know, is a state that upon its very founding faced an existential threat from 7 countries that attacked it. We also know that in 1967, Israel was attacked by 3 countries, followed by 1973, followed by the Gulf War in 1981, followed by Hezbollah and Hamas. There's probably not been another country on earth
What's this
that has
got to
been
do
attacked
with
as
you
much
being
as Israel.
transparent
And
about
I'm
having
going to answer
nuclear
you. According
weapons?
to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which Israel has not signed and therefore is not bound by, Israel, if it maintains a nuclear arsenal, it has not used it, and if it maintains it, it is because it
Why are
faces
you saying if?
existential
You know
threats.
the
Hold
answer.
on. And since the Holocaust, which today is International Holocaust Day in Israel, it's Israeli Holocaust Day, and we are mourning tonight 6 million Jews that have died. Israel maintains the ability never to rely on anyone else, and therefore, Israel is not bound by the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. It didn't sign on. Who is bound? The United States is bound, and it has followed it.
Yeah, but how
And
can
guess
you
what?
demand?
Iran,
How
hold on,
can
wait,
you
wait,
demand?
wait. Pierce,
Yeah,
Iran,
Doran,
I answered
Doran,
you.
you're
I
not
answered
answering
you.
my
It's because of an
question.
existential
Doran,
threat.
Doran.
And I just want to say Iran has signed it
How
and
can you-
violated
Doran,
it from 2002.
How,
they violated.
how can you, with a straight face, defend Israel's determination for full transparency by another country over its nuclear weapon ambitions when you have so far steadfastly ducked my very simple question as to whether Israel has its own nuclear weapons? And if
I have not ducked your question.
Do you
I'm
have
answering
them or
you,
not?
Pierce, and I explained to you that while I do not have firsthand knowledge of Israel's nuclear facilities, like you, I've heard the foreign reports.
You don't
and
know.
would
You
assume
don't
that
know.
It is, hold on. I'm answering. Pierce,
As a
you asked for an
reservist
answer.
IDF
And I would assume
spokesman,
it's highly
you don't know if
likely-
Israel's nukes.
Yeah.
I would assume it is highly likely, as do you, that Israel has a nuclear program. Israel never signed the NPT, and the reason Israel never signed the NPT, I would assume, even though I wasn't in the room, is because Israel maintains its individual right to defend itself. To compare that now to Iran and a potential nuclear program in a regime that is the world's #1 global terrorism, or they are not just terrorism, they engineered the idea of terrorism. They represent terror that has killed 241 American Marines. They have killed 85 Jews in Buenos Aires. They have killed thousands of U.S. soldiers with roadside bombs. They have carried out 22, according to MI5, mass casualty attempts in England since 2022. They just killed 40,000 of the protesters. Israel has a protest about cottage cheese. Israel's protests every day. How can you compare the idea that Israel would have a nuclear weapon and Iran, the potential of Hitler having a nuclear weapon?
Let Mehdi respond.
I noticed that Doran said that Iran killed 30,000 of its people a few minutes ago. Now he's saying 40,000. By the end of this discussion, it'll be 100,000. It's funny how they inflate the numbers of people killed in Iran, but never recognize the 100,000 people you killed in Gaza, that your military killed in Gaza, 100,000 people minimum killed in Palestine, which are actually verified numbers by international organizations like the Lancet Medical Journal. You deny those. But let's put that to one side and deal with some of the stuff you've been saying. Number one, just some fact checks. A UN Security Council resolution is binding under international law. The Reagan administration voted for it, and you've never followed it. You proudly say you haven't signed the NPT. People watching at home will laugh their heads off. You're basically saying, because we didn't sign an international treaty, we don't have to follow international law. So then why doesn't Iran just pull out of the NPT? Why doesn't everyone just pull out of the NPT and do what Israel did? You say Israel reserves the right to defend itself. That old chestnut. No other country in the Middle East is allowed to defend itself. Israel is the country that bombed, count them, 6 countries in the Middle East last year. I can't think of a single country on planet Earth, aside from the US and Israel, that bombed half a dozen countries in the calendar year 2025. That is your country that you're defending, a rogue nation that bombs whoever it sees fit and then claims to be a victim. You say that, for example, you mentioned in your comments, you said 1967 we were attacked. Complete flat falsehood. Israel attacked first in 1967. Everyone knows that. It's a documented fact. You can call it a preemptive war, but you can't just lie on here and say you were attacked. You were not. You said that Iran pioneered the use of terrorism in the Middle East. Actually, that was the Zionist gangs. That was the Stern Gang and the Irgun who blew up British diplomats, bombed the King David Hotel, hung British sergeants, attacked British civilians and military and Arabs. It was actually Jewish and Zionist terror gangs that pioneered terrorism in the Middle East 100 years ago. So a lot of your facts are just completely wrong, and you're dodging Piers' central point, which is that you do have nukes. You know you have nukes. You're not allowed to say you have nukes, which makes this whole conversation so absurd. But the idea that you would come on TV and go after someone else's civil nuclear program. Remember, the US says Iran did not have a weapons program, while you yourself have weapons. That's the US intelligence community's view. They said last year. That is what the US said last year. The US annual.
Then why do we need the JCPOA?
Let me read out the quote to you.
Program that you support.
Let me read out the quote to you.
A JCPOA.
Let me read out the quote to you. If you stop interrupting me.
Stop.
I didn't interrupt you, Doran. You spoke for a while. In 2025, this is what the Director of National Intelligence said. We continue to assess Iran is not building a nuclear weapon and that Khamenei has not reauthorized the nuclear weapons program he suspended in 2003. A country that doesn't have nukes is being lectured by you, a country that does have nukes. It would be funny if it wasn't so tragic and you hadn't killed so many Iranian kids as part of your supposedly disarmament program.
Well, let me ask you, Doran, let me ask you a question.
Can I respond?
Doran, let me. You can respond.
Can I respond?
You can respond, but let me ask you. Let me ask you another question.
Like Israel wasn't attacked in '67. That Israel is basically decided to
launched the '67 war. That's a fact.
To Mehdi, what Mehdi does is he tells a fantasy story.
It's historical
like
fact.
Israel woke up one morning 2 years ago and said, "You know what? We're a country of 9 million people. Let's go attack 6 countries throughout the Middle East."
Not
Let's
2 years ago, Doran.
2,000
Not 2
kilometers
years ago.
Because we just
78 years ago, you've been bombing your neighbors.
By the way,
so 78 years you've been bombing your neighbors from the very beginning.
For a very, very, very long time. If
and you interrupted me, Doran.
I mean, I assume that you want to hear my answer. That's why we're here. October 8th.
You interrupted me when I was trying to read out the threat assessment, remember.
October 8th, there was also a war. That war began when Hezbollah saw Israel weaken on October 7th and launched a campaign of 6,000 rockets at Israel. And then Israel responded. Iran fired 500 ballistic missiles, which has been attacking Israel consistently. And Israel decided back then with the United States that it is time to deal with the #1 terror regime in the entire world. And what I hear from you, Mehdi, is you make an incredibly compelling case, diverting the conversation away from stopping Iran's nuclear power by hyper-focusing on the Israeli democracy that you yourself admit has had nuclear weapons for 40 years and never used them. And you were essentially getting a get-out-of-jail-free card for Iran. Mehdi, are you willing, if there's a possibility in your projection, if you projected that Iran would have a nuclear weapon, would you be concerned?
All right, well, I want to ask a question based around that, which is, hang on. If I could just ask a question of Doran now, which is this, which is if the whole purpose of this war was to stop Iran developing a nuclear weapon. Do you concede now that if you don't get the enriched uranium, either voluntarily handed to you by Iran or by seizure, which would require the use of ground forces, that the whole war will have been a failure? Do you accept that?
No, it wouldn't have all been a failure because obviously we will not get the most important thing, which is to remove the enriched uranium from Iran. And that is the number one.
So it would be a failure if you don't get the uranium.
If we do not get the uranium, the #1 goal of this war will not be fulfilled, and it's going to put the war in a sense of stagnation, which I think will probably continue until that happens for one of 2 reasons. Either Iran is going to develop a nuclear weapon and threaten the rest of the world, and the world will then try to stop them, probably too late, or at some point in the future, I don't know when, either the US or Israel will try to make that happen. However, this war has been incredibly successful for a very simple reason. We have destroyed Iran's nuclear production capabilities, its launching timers, its hard fuel, all of the many things that go in order to take that bomb, put it on a warhead, and shoot it have been destroyed. Their ballistic missile program has been weakened as
how
of
do we know?
production
Because last summer,
just one second, their
Doran,
leadership and the
Doran,
planning mechanism has been destroyed.
Doran, with respect, last summer, after the 12-day war, we were assured that the whole nuclear capability of Iran had been put back decades. It was done, flattened, it was over. 8 months later, a massive war was launched against Iran because it turned out that was all baloney. Now you're spewing, what many people will say is exactly the same rhetorical baloney again. But you're also conceding that if the enriched uranium remains in Iran, this war's a failure. And I don't see how
I said it isn't a failure because you'll set back a terror regime that operates with ballistic missiles, operates as
the regime remains in place.
Hamas, you'll have taken, again...
The Supreme Leader's son is the new Ayatollah, right?
Pierce.
Yeah?
Say this again, I'm sorry?
The Ayatollah, the Supreme Leader who was killed, his son is his replacement. The IRGC regime remains in place. There's been no protests from the people of Iran. And the Straits of Hormuz have become a massive weapon for the Iranians to use economically, as they also simultaneously attack all their Gulf state neighbors. So the idea that my point is the idea that at the end of this, Iran keeps its enriched uranium, you would have to admit, in that eventuality, the war's a failure.
No, because a war, Pierce, it's very rare that you get a victory, what's called, unconditional surrender of any enemy. I don't think it's happened since World War II. What you get in wars are cumulative gains. Again, this is not fast food. It's like a McDonald's drive-through. The woman says, what do you want? You say, I want, the end of the Iranian regime. This is a process that began a number of months ago with the 12-day war. And what Israeli intelligence and U.S. intelligence saw is as soon as that war ended, Iran went right back to building the nuclear program, developing the nuclear sites, digging for the uranium that was there. They refurbished their ballistic missile sites and were expanding it from 2,500 to 7,000. And like you said, that now that we see Ali Khamenei has been killed, what do we see happen? They have not reformed. They put in another member of the exact same family, meaning this regime is evil and has
you have done this.
Now.
Hold on, can I actually say
many response to stop them, Pierce? It's the idea of good standing against
Mehdi's response, please.
So what both of you are missing, to an extent, is it's not really about what uranium is left in the country. It's about intent. Yep. You have left, the Israelis and the American government have left the Iranian government, not just in place. There hasn't been the regime change that Netanyahu lied to Trump and said would be easy in that situation from meeting. They've not just left the Iranian regime in place, but they've left the Iranian government with the clear intent to want to have to defend itself, to use Doron and the Israelis' favorite phrase, their right to self-defense. If you were in the Iranian government today, would you not want to get nuclear weapons? Would you not think I've been attacked 2 years running by people I was in the middle of negotiations with? Every time I'm in a negotiation with them, 100%. They kill our negotiators, they kill our top foreign diplomats, they threaten to kill more of us. Every time we're doing a deal, whether it's in Geneva or Vienna or Oman, they attack us, which is what the Israelis did last year. Why would you not want to get nuclear weapons? Why would you not look at North Korea and say, no one dares touch North Korea because they have nukes? Why would you not listen to Doron speaking on Piers Morgan saying, well, we didn't sign the NPT, so we don't have any obligations not to have nukes? Why wouldn't Iran say, well, we're going to pull out of the NPT, we're going to do what North Korea did, and we're going to do it because the world saw us get illegally attacked 2 years running? Doron asked me, do I want Iran to have nuclear weapons? No, I'm anti-nuclear weapons. I'm not like you. I don't support nukes and have a secret nuclear weapons program. I supported the JCPOA, which in the very first paragraph, Iran affirmed never to build nuclear weapons, which said that Iran could only enrich to 3.67%, which got rid of a lot of their highly enriched uranium. You, the Israeli government, Netanyahu, stopped the JCPOA, wrecked the JCPOA. Correct. You helped Iran enrich to 20 and then 60. You brought us to this situation, the Israeli government and the Donald Trump administration. So don't lecture the rest of us about nukes when you have nukes and you've now incentivized Iran to get nukes.
Fucking
every
fire.
There is no doubt about it. There is a resolution. Let me just finish my point, Doron. You and Piers spoke for a very long time. Let me finish my point. You said you don't like interruptions. I'll finish in a moment. The UN General Assembly votes every year to have a weapons of mass destruction free zone in the Middle East. Iran votes for that resolution. Everyone in the world votes for that resolution. 2 countries don't vote for that resolution. That is the US and Israel, because Israel wants to be the only power. Well, Iran doesn't have nukes, and you do.
You are so naive, Mehdi. It's unbelievable.
You can't even tell. You can't even tell.
that
Doran,
Iran
you
is
can't
a
even
terror
tell
regime.
the viewers today whether Israel has
defending
nukes.
Iran.
You can't even say one
realize,
statement.
Mehdi, you're defending
Doran, why should
Iran.
anyone believe anything
you say? You don't have a
say?
hidden nuclear program.
No,
You
I'm
do.
not
The
actually.
hidden nuclear program is Iran. It's Ali Khamenei. That's your leader.
No, the US disagree with you, and the IAEA.
I mean,
there's no evidence.
Which one
for
are
it.
you? Because you're defending. You sound like Mehdi Khamenei. We're a nice program. We vote against nuclear weapons.
Of course.
We just want
go for
civil
racist insults.
2014,
That's all you have left.
We already had 20% enriched uranium. I mean, who are you speaking as? As an American citizen?
And yet,
as a British citizen?
hold on. You're going back to 2014, Doran?
2014.
Who are you speaking as? You're speaking as the Israeli military.
And it was reported before the JCPOA.
Exactly. When did the JCPOA get signed, Doran? Do you know what year?
2015.
Do you know what year the JCPOA was signed?
2015.
Exactly, the year later. So why are you going back to 2014? It was resolved in 2015.
And they never had to
then you
the
and Trump came along and wrecked it. No,
Yep.
the Trump administration vouched and said Iran was complying with the JCPOA. So when you keep saying, why do you trust Iran? Iran did what it had to do. It, according to the IAEA,
let's unpack the JCPOA for
they followed the deal. No.
Mehdi, tell us the conditions of the JCPOA.
I'm going to tell you what happened under the JCPOA.
No, tell me about what does the JCPOA say? You know, tell us all the truth.
I do know, and I'm telling you now. The JCPOA allowed Iran to enrich at 3.67%. When did they start enriching to 20%? When you and your friends in the Israeli government and Donald Trump tore up the JCPOA. Jim Mattis, a general in the American military, who was defense secretary, not under the JCPOA. No, they did not. As every IAEA inspector vouched for.
What do you think happened to that 20%?
By the way, Doran, what enriched uranium does Israel have? Because the IAEA aren't allowed into Israel. So why don't you tell us? You say we're naive. Everyone watching knows
you're comparing
about your
Israel
own country's
with Iran,
nuclear weapons.
which is
yes, I am.
Which is
I'm comparing the country that has attacked
which is
6
morally
countries.
insane. Israel's not closing the Straits of Hormuz.
Why? You're
and
worse.
International shipping.
You're morally worse
Israel's
than Iran.
not funding
You're
proxies
morally
throughout
worse
the
than
Middle
Iran.
East.
You bombed
Israel
6
doesn't
countries.
target Marines.
You bombed 6 countries.
Israel does not
You bombed
target
6
Marines
countries
or
last year.
Hezbollah or Hamas
You bombed
or
6
kill its own
countries.
people in the streets, even though you think it does.
He's a
Israel
fucking
is
Nazi
a
apologist.
democracy
Children
with
in
a
Lebanon
leadership that
last
you don't
week.
particularly like
Doran,
we do.
your military just killed 300 people in a single 10-minute span last week.
Here's
you blew up children in strollers. You killed a 1-year-old at a funeral. You killed 300 people in Lebanon in one day last
made
week.
that battlefield,
You filled up
Mehdi?
the hospitals. You
Mehdi,
bombed
who laid
aid
out that
distribution
battlefield?
centers.
Who created that battlefield?
You did. You violated
We
the
created the
ceasefire with
battlefield?
Hezbollah 15,000 times. Yes, you violated
was there
the
anyone
ceasefire
over there? Was there
15,000
anyone
times according to the UN.
Hezbollah that was
Doran, I know
embedded
you don't
in that
like facts,
population?
right? But you haven't brought a single fact to this discussion.
Iran wastes the people who go in the streets and they kill them in cold blood. Israel
Why did you violate
tells
the
the people
ceasefire
of southern
with Hezbollah?
Lebanon, please move out of the way so that we can actually kill Hezbollah. And
no.
Pierce had on
Then
just
why did
last
you kill
week,
300
Salah
people in
Makhnouk.
10 minutes?
Salah Makhnouk
Why did you
was
carry
just
out
on
Lebanon's
in
October the
Lebanon.
7th last week?
You know what? It's not about you. It's not
Why
about
did you
me.
carry out
Listen to
Lebanon's
the
October the
Lebanese.
7th last
Salah
week?
Makhnouk was on
Why did you
last
kill
week.
300
and
people?
I think you should listen to what he
300
said.
people
he
you
was
killed.
on Pierce's show and he spoke
Doran,
the
do you not
truth
feel ashamed
that the Lebanese
that your military
people want
massacred
Hezbollah
300
gone.
people?
Fucking Mehdi is owning him.
I'm sure it is true. I'm sure it's true. Many Lebanese people would like Hezbollah gone, but it's also true that many Lebanese people right now are running terrified for their lives because of the bombing raids over them.
A million people displaced
and a million
from their
people
homes
have
by
been
Israel.
displaced from their homes. And there's a horrible
Pierce,
familiar
if we don't
pattern
displace
that follows
them,
what happened in Gaza.
Pierce, if we don't displace them, then I go on this show and we're accused of killing civilians, right? And if we do displace them, then we're accused of displacement.
You told them they can't come back. Don't lie, Doran. Don't gaslight us. You've told them they can't come back. That means it's ethnic cleansing.
Question for you. Does Israel have a right to respond to Hezbollah after they shot 6,000 rockets at us unprovoked on October 8th, 2023, one day after October 7th? Do we have a right to respond?
Any country has a right to defend itself. Of course it does.
Does Israel have
Does
a right?
Lebanon have a
Because
right
you
to
seem
defend
to-
itself from Israeli invasion?
How?
Hold on. Doran, you always start these timelines. You start these timelines in weird places. You say 2014, ignoring what happened in 2015. You say October 8th, 2023. You ignore what happened in 2024, Doran. Let me remind the viewers of Piers Uncensored. There was a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah since the end of 2024. According to the UN, according to UN peacekeepers that Israel keeps attacking, you keep attacking Irish and Nepalese and Indonesian peacekeepers. The UN peacekeepers in southern Lebanon say Israel violated the ceasefire not 1,000 times, not
not 5,000 times. They say you violated the ceasefire 15,000 times over the last 18 months. So please don't come and tell me about unprovoked
I don't know
rockets.
about your
you,
numbers,
Israel,
however,
violated that ceasefire.
I have one question.
You killed,
Why did
well,
Israel,
you can
what
Google
were
is
the
your friend,
conditions of
all
the
right?
agreement?
400
Wait,
people.
there was one basic
You
condition.
can't just say I don't know my numbers.
We've run out of time.
Numbers are from the US.
We've run out of time.
Southern Lebanon.
I'm sorry, we've run out of time.
You murdered 300 people last week, including a baby at her father's funeral.
We murdered 300 terrorists last week, and I think those are your people.
Okay.
A one-year-old baby is a terrorist? I think that speaks volumes about your view of Arabs.
The one-year-old baby was put in harm's way because Hezbollah
I'm going to leave it there, gentlemen.
At a funeral?
I
They were put
appreciate
at
you
harm's way
joining
at a
me.
funeral?
We've run out of time. So
Wow.
thank you both very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Pierce.
There's been a lot of talk, including from the White House, about a historic victory in the Iran war. In response, many of the war's critics say it's a humiliating defeat. So which one is it? Is it really possible or meaningful to declare a military victory if the general narrative is that you've not achieved very much at all? Joining me to discuss this, a retired US Army officer and a military intelligence expert, Major General James Spidermarks, and Jim Hansen, US Army Special Forces veteran and Chief Strategist for the Middle East Forum. Welcome to both of you. Major General Marks, is America with Israel, are they winning this war? Or is, as some people are claiming, the asymmetrical war being waged by Iran in the Strait of Hormuz actually turning out to be more successful?
Well, I see a lot of Vietnam wrapped up in this contest we're involved in right now. We're winning immensely on the battlefield. We have crushed Iran's ability to exercise command and control. We've decimated their ability to exercise, I would think, the domestic requirements of a legitimate government. We don't know who's in charge. I don't think the Iranian people know who's in charge. And I doubt anybody's going to raise a hand and say, look, I want to take the mantle of the burden of leadership, knowing full well if they go outside for a smoke break, they're going to get shot in the head, as well they should be. So my experience viewing this is that we are inflicting incredible damage. But from the perspective of who's got the longer horizon, time horizon of how much longer we can withstand pain, I think Iran has the ability to simply hang in there much longer than we do, because we're dealing with political dynamics, which are really incredibly difficult for us to look at a warfare through the political spectrum, but that's what it's all about. But I think that's where it is. I've described this in many cases. Look, this is a lot like Monty Python, you know, and the Holy Grail, and that tis but a scratch, you know, as their arms and legs are getting cut off, but they've got the ability to hang in there.
Yeah, Jim Hansen, I mean, it seems to me the goalposts have shifted significantly throughout this 6-week war so far. We've gone from wanting regime change to total surrender to now the main theme is we've got to stop Iran getting a nuke and so on. And it's all been very confusing and very inconsistent. But ultimately, if at the center of this is Donald Trump's claim that Iran must be stopped from developing a nuclear weapon, can this war be perceived to be successful if the enriched uranium, which Iran possesses, remains in Iran in their possession?
Well, to extend the metaphor, I'd say that's the Holy Grail. You have to get that. And I don't think there has been a shifting of goalposts. The goal all along has been to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, being able to develop one, having the initiative to do it, having the ability, having the ballistic missile programs and other conventional arms that protect them and stop other people from going in and removing that capability. So from that perspective, all of those things have at least been put on hold or set back decades. Their defense industrial base is non-existent at this point. They're running out of missiles and drones and everything else. And I think at some point you have to look at what President Trump's decision was. He had to either take the fact that they had begun trying to develop their nuke program again, which has one purpose. Let's not pretend it's about nuclear power. It never has been. It's always been about the Islamic Revolution's bomb. And he said, if we don't do something to stop that at this point, they're going to continue. And at some point, another president is going to see a mushroom cloud. He's not going to be the guy who kicked the can down the road again. And so he took massive political damage to do the right thing for America and the world. And I think he'll see it
But
through.
how is he going to get the enriched uranium without committing a significant number of ground forces with all the danger that goes with it?
He's going to break the Islamic Republic's will to continue. The blockade hurts them more than us. They need to get oil revenue and they need to bring things in. If that stops, and we have every capability to do that, it's already started, then they only have a couple weeks where they have enough cash reserves. And the other thing to look at is if they don't get their oil out, their fields are pumping, their storage capability is at 60%. That'll be filled up in less than 2 weeks. After that, they have to shut their wells down, and that breaks the wells. That ruins the ability to continue pumping. So they've got a 2-week window tops if we enforce this blockade. And that's where the maximum pressure comes from. You know, the kinetic stuff broke their dangerous toys. This breaks their ability to continue both internally and externally.
Major General Marks, do you agree with that assessment?
Well, I agree with Jim, absolutely, that what the United States, in concert with in the campaign with Israel, has been able to defeat the capability of the Iranians to achieve nuclear capability, attrit their ballistic missile development, and put their proxies, either destroy their proxies or put their proxies on notice that they're not going to live much longer. And so I see this as we're in a period of transition, and that we can go from what we've seen over the course of the last 5 weeks, which has been quite phenomenal and destructive in terms of what has been able to be achieved. And we can transition into a period where we could have sustainable engagement against those targets. The 3 red lines are proxies, missiles, and nukes. And we could have a sustained engagement that doesn't necessarily put boots on the ground at all to secure the HEU, but to identify it as best we can. And look, I spent my life as an intel guy, and I understand the challenges of getting it right, and I know the scar tissue of getting it wrong. But we can go after Esfahan, Natanz, and Fordo as a matter of routine and further degrade their ability and set back their ability to be a threat. Until we put boots on the ground and we start opening steel doors, there's never going to be a level of certainty that's going to satisfy everybody. All the pundits are going to say, what is it, 30%, 80%? Look, I don't know. But we can set this back so that they don't become a threat until such point as the Iranian people say, look, we're tired of being in a threat situation all the time. Our social contract shoved down our throat 50 years ago is we got to listen to these lunatics in Tehran, this theocracy, which is incredibly hypocritical at its root. And at some point, we give them the opportunity to rise up and say, we want something different. That horizon may be years away. But the horizon for us is racing upon us because we have elections. We have a vocal electorate, and we have challenges associated with that. And I don't disagree with Jim. I think every one of President Trump's predecessors is probably smoking a cigar and drinking a bourbon right now saying, you know, for God's sakes, I wish I'd done that.
Well, I'm not convinced by that. And the reason is I think there's also a credibility issue with President Trump, to be honest, which is that after the 12-day war last summer, he was out there saying very loudly,
these guys are
we
idiots.
have destroyed their nuclear capability, put it back decades, blah, 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 blah. And yet within 8 months, he felt the need to launch a full-fledged war against Iran for precisely the reasons that he said had been neutralized 8 months earlier. So there is a credibility issue there. And my question would be here, well, how do we know? You know, whose word do we take? If suddenly we get the same statements being made, oh, we've done it again. 8 months later, we've once again, we have neutralized their nuclear threat for another 2 decades. Well, how do we know what to believe?
Well, you know Donald.
Sorry, that was for Jim. Sorry, yeah.
Go ahead. You know Donald Trump. You've talked to him.
Yeah.
He loves hyperbolic rhetoric. He plays information warfare as well as any leader on the planet. And in as long as I can remember, back to probably Reagan was the last guy who did that style. And Reagan's was polished movie star. Trump's is bombastic New York real estate tycoon. And so he does that to throw the other side off balance. He claims things that he wants to be true to go ahead and assume the close. He uses every technique of the art of the deal to try and push what he wants to happen. Now, in this case, there was tremendous damage and their nuclear program was broken in the 12-day war. when we saw and noticed that they were doing things that said they're just going to continue to rebuild it, he had to recalculate and say, well, you know what? They didn't learn the lesson. We broke it. They couldn't make a bomb right now, but they're going to do it again. And these 12er Shia Islam, sect that Iran has, believes that they need an Armageddon-like event to bring the return of the 12th Imam to rule the world. So you can't trust guys like that, but you can say they're going to look at the long, long game. And if you want to go ahead and say, okay, during my presidency, I took care of the midterms and kept a Republican majority, great. You don't do the right thing. President Trump took the poison pill for all of us and went ahead and took them out of the game. And hopefully he's taken that regime out for the long term.
Okay, so
you can say it's not
quickly,
regime
Jim
change.
Hansen,
It is.
Just as we wrap up, just give me a prediction for what you think is going to happen.
I think we will go ahead and blockade the strait and go ahead and stop them from gaining revenue for it and bringing stuff in, and that will break the regime enough that they will capitulate. They will give up the enriched uranium.
Not going to happen.
And figure they could make
Never
more
gonna
later
happen.
or cheat or buy one from somebody.
Nope.
And then what will happen is a longer, slow degradation of the entire Islamic Republic remnants until the people of Iran are feeling free enough to rise up with some help and go ahead and bring about a new government that serves their interests and needs and is not a menace to the region and the world.
Okay, Major General Marks, your prediction.
I think we have weeks. We're in a period of transition.
Let's
at
go.
the tactical level.
New shit.
We're going to have an increased presence of Marines, which gives the CENTCOM commander some options. If, in fact, there's an opportunity to do something with the highly enriched uranium, I think there will remain negotiations of a sort. I think we're going to have to get our hands around what the nuke discussion looks like. That's a non-negotiable. But I can't see a force, a non-permissive engagement that allows us to go after highly enriched uranium, primarily because we don't know where it is in its entirety, and we don't know how much there is in its entirety. That becomes an incredibly difficult mission set. Iran has also figured out how to make oil like everybody, like the Russians. It's very fungible. So conducting the blockade in the Straits of Hormuz will release pressure. It will increase pressure on the regime in Tehran. I don't think it's going to break it, but it's going to be sufficient, in addition to what has already occurred, that I think we will have negotiations again moving forward, and we'll have an opportunity to start to address that red line, which is give us access to the highly enriched uranium. We can dilute it. We can turn it into something that allows you to have commercial nuclear power, which they have. They've got it in Bushehr right now. And that becomes an opportunity to stop what's happening to the regime right now. I think they would benefit greatly from that.
I bow to both of you in terms of your vastly superior military expertise on this. I just don't quite...
Bow to nothing, boys. All right. Here's me not trying to get banned again. Like, I should change up my programming a little bit. As soon as I put on something new, I get fucking copyright striked. Fuck you. How dare you? How dare you? You don't like that. Let's go. That's tight. Clean. Dude, I'm barely level 25. The fuck?
I've received an inquiry from a group called Arachne. They've requested access to your fatality data. Specifically, your combat engagement history with other runners.
Huh? How dare
I've
you?
searched public and private databases and haven't been able to find anything concrete on Arachne. Confidential UESC threat assessments point to them being a fringe group with a fixation on runner-to-runner combat metrics. I'm hesitant to hand over your entire combat history to an unknown, but if you're interested, you can provide a snapshot of your capabilities. Show. Runner, you might be interested in a closer collaboration with Sakaguchi Genetics, the originator of shell technology.
Go.
Your presence here on Tau Ceti provides us with a unique
Tau Ceti.
opportunity to influence future
That's right,
research.
mate. That's fucking right, mate. It's fucking CHEWSDAY. In any zone, deal damage to opposing runners and successfully down a hostile runner. Ew. Let's take this one instead. Man, dude, I don't know. Close that. All right. Sakaguchi. Let's try to do this. Oh shit. Here we go. God, it took a while.
Engaging affirmation protocol. Assert. You are as inexorable as the flow of time itself.
Well, thank you.
Assert. There is nothing you cannot accomplish through repetition.
I appreciate that. She's correct. Acknowledging the game is hard, and to stick with it, because you will get that payoff you're looking for. It's really hard to explain why this game is so fucking good. I do wish I had some friends to play with, though. I really do. Okay, what do I gotta do? Southern flight control. Right here. I've done this before. God, it was so much easier to do everything in the beta. They made it easy on purpose. Right, buddy, where are you at? Link. G, baby.
Placing ammo crate. Engage.
I know you're close. Where's this motherfucker at? Go.
If it moves, end it. Find them.
That's a bug. this guy? Gotta do my shit, dude.
20 minutes remaining.
Probably doing the same thing. Where is he? Oh shit, I'm screwed.
Attack.
Fuck.
Warning, reinforcements detected.
There he is.
Seeker out. Who's out there?
Fuck.
Engage.
Fuck. Almost got screwed there, dude.
15 minutes remain.
Where's that guy's body?
Echo post searching. Find them. Where do I go? Orientation. Sucks. Seeker out.
Can't believe that got me. After all that?
You have 10
Mercy.
minutes to exfil.
Oh, there's my friend. We were hunting each other. I ran out of juice. All right, chat, that's it for me. See you guys tomorrow.